think seven and eights can work really well together because of the balance of possibilities with realism. And then they both have that, like, let's just do it energy, jump in. But there was a workshop last year where a seven and an eight were in a mixed type group, and the
Mm,
conversation was around when did we last misunderstand each other, or how do we handle conflict different?
mm,
And we were kind of picking on something a little sensitive. There had just been a disagreement the week prior between these two individuals. And they came out and they were brave enough to share this with the rest of the group during our takeaway session. And the seven said, we had this disagreement and I just wanted to get out of it and I wanted to move on and I just wanted us to like get back to where we were. So the last week I've been, trying to make jokes and like make sure we're okay without having to have a conversation about if we're okay. And the eight said, I have felt so dismissed and confused what's going on because we had that situation. You walked away, and then like now we're here, and like we didn't talk about it. We're not okay. We didn't talk about it. The seven's like, we're okay. It's in the past. So I thought that was really interesting and definitely a growth opportunity for a seven to have to lean into those difficult conversations at times. But is that something that you have seen or could you see
well,
happening?
yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because I was just thinking as you were saying that, I was thinking, yeah, and the eight's thinking, wow, you're so flaky. You're so
Yeah,
flaky.
yeah.
You're so flaky is what that. Um, and I think, when you think about each one of those types and what you're trying to get out of those spaces. Threes wanting focus. Like, hey, what's this? How can we focus on this thing? How can we get this thing done? Um, eight's trying to provide that force to get it done. Like, just to your point, just do it, Nike. Just do it.
Just do it.
Just make it happen.
Yeah.
Um, and so, I mean, I think with the three of them, I can see where when they're working together, how they could work together. Sevens generating those ideas and possibilities and that energy of, yes, we can. Um, and threes having that driving results and again, not wanting to fail, wanting to win and managing that image in a positive way. And like I said, and then eight's just bringing in that force and that was like, all right, what do we need to move out the way? Willing to go in and move things out of the way. Um, I think that's when they can work really well together. And then
Mhm.
going back to your point, those friction points are when those things come in and sevens are like, I'm gonna skip this.
Yeah.
And again, I can see where when folks are looking at this, how they can get, depending on that layering that we talked about, where they can bring some of that in. Um, but yeah, like really, they're just really diving into and saying, okay, what's connecting, what's
Mhm.
clicking, um, and how am I avoiding um this conversation, and why am I avoiding it, which is more like the seven.
Mhm.
Um, and then that three going, all right, I'm going to, how do I look good at doing it?
Yes. Yes. Okay. So one of the things that eights will say is frustrating with the three is that they have we talk about how they have a little inner PR agency. So everything is like, oh, it's good. I can spin anything, which can be such a gift, right? We need that. But then eights who value brutal honesty, realism, like it's like I don't feel safe if you're spinning this. I don't feel like I can trust you if you're spinning this, or to a seven if you're avoiding this conversation and thinking everything's okay. And so that direct communication can be some friction because I think both of the three and the seven sometimes struggle with being like, yeah, this just sucks right now. It's like three's
Well,
like,
yeah,
no, it doesn't suck. It'll be great.
Well, yeah, because it will be.
Yeah, I'm gonna take care of it. It will all be fine.
Because
Yeah. This is actually a good
yeah,
thing. It's yeah.
yeah, no, and eights, I mean threes do have to worry about that, right? That three strategy, we have to worry about if we're coming off, and I've gotten this before, fake.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I share the story sometimes in my workshops when I'm talking about um giving feedback. And I remember in a 360 once, I got this 360, and they're anonymous.
Uh-huh.
And when it talked about authentic, someone had given me a a decently low score in authenticity. Um, and I was like, whoa, like what? Like, and luckily they did put comments because there's this particular tool, you had, if you gave a low score, then you had to give a comment to why. And so they said, Demetrius, I feel that Demetrius is not authentic because he's always telling me what a good job that I'm doing. Right. And I was like, what? It says, but he doesn't tell me what the job is. Like, what is it
Ah.
that I did? He just always says, great job. You know, love it, love what you're doing, great job. But it's like, but he's not telling me what that thing is. And I remember when I first read it, it was a punch in the gut. And I remember, I did what pretty much everyone does when well, I won't say everyone. I don't like absolutes, but a lot of people, what a lot of people do, which is, I got offended, I got defensive. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
really? So I'm giving you compliments, and so I'm not
And you're
authentic,
complaining? Yeah.
and you're complaining. Because I'm thinking about some of my peers who never give compliments. Um, and so I'm like, okay. And then I thought about it once I calmed down. And I was like, you know what? It does make sense. It would be a lot more impactful if I said, hey, great job on X. I love the way that you're doing Z, right? If I put some context to that, and it would give them direction to know, okay, this is what he really likes, and this is what he doesn't like. So I can see where that can come into play, where folks can, because the way that we come at things sometimes, folks can take it the wrong way. Um, and then we get that label of fake or inauthentic.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when it comes to failures.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we're like, no, 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 no. Someone's like, tell me a time you failed. I'm like, and I will spin it. And I'll say, well, I can't tell you a time I failed, but I can tell you a time that I learned lessons.
Yeah, your greatest weakness. I work too hard. I just
Right? I can't tell
I
you a
care
time that
too
I failed.
much. Yeah.
I can't tell you a time I failed, but I can tell you a time that I learned some lessons because that's how
Oh,
I look at, you know,
yeah.
failures if I quit. And there's not too many things that I've ever just quit.
Yeah.
I might have redirected myself. I might have,
Yeah. The story's not over. It's like this is part of the story.
but yeah,
It's not the end. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think threes and sevens have a lot, like, are very similar in that way, because I think a seven could just as easily probably receive some sort of similar feedback where it's like, you say great job, but like, what exactly? It's like, is this real? So, there is that I mean, it is kind of vulnerable to admit a failure or to express you're having a hard time, or and so it there's a reason behind it, but it is a tendency that both of these types have. Um, One thing that I was thinking of, so we're talking a lot about the dynamic between these three, but then there's a lot of things that the other types have to say about
Yes,
all three
there
of
are.
these types, or sometimes specific. And I don't have a lot. Fours, five, sevens, I always say, are the fewest types that I see, the least common types that I see. Um, but fours will say, I have a really difficult time with threes. Sometimes they'll even say it about sevens because I just don't know. who they really are. Like if they're not like struggling, like it just seems like, because the forest sometimes is, it's fun to struggle. Or
Oh,
it's like, here, give
yeah.
me my budge. Or it's like, well, of course, we're human beings. We're not all going to be great at all times. So that'll be one where I'll hear some like friction with a 3 or a 7. What are some other just potential friction points with some of the other types? Any stand out? Any
Oh yeah.
specific matchups stand out?
So if you think about, I mean, I think about, my next door neighbor, the two, the other neighbor, right? Because you said four, which is, one of my neighbors, but that the two and that strategy, and they want to dive into and talk about all the emotions and all that. And the one thing that I feel that three, sevens, and eights have in common is that struggle with vulnerability.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so, you know, being able to be in that space as much when you're partnering with the two, collaborating with the two, in a relationship with the two, because emotions is just there,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, sometimes it can be draining. You're like, why? Well, I remember coming home sometimes and how was your day? I'm like, good.
Real good. Yeah.
It was good. Like, yeah, but how did that make you feel? Good. And they're like, but good is not a feeling. You're like, in my world, it is. In my world, good is a great feeling. Um, but so I would say that's the space. And then nines, um, I think can struggle with all three of these types.
Yes.
Um, because again, we could be so intense.
Yeah, it feels
uh,
overwhelming.
it feels overwhelming. It feels overwhelming. And I would say that's where the Enneagram is it's been helping me a lot. If I'm can get actually a little vulnerable and personal. Because I have my older son is that strategy of nine, and a lot of times trying to work with him and coming in with that three energy at
Mm-hmm.
times. Um, when he's in that nine space and he's just like, look, dude, we're not clicking.
Yeah.
Like it's not. And so being able to understand that and um, step back and say, okay, what does that look like? And um, you know, my youngest son, who's 10, we don't type, don't know what his type is, but I can tell you now, he's definitely in touch with the emotions. And
Uh-huh.
there's times where I'm in that daddy space where, I've asked him not to do something multiple times and he's doing it. And then he gets hurt and he goes, and I look at him and I do the stereotypical dad thing of, well, you know, if you had listened,
Yeah.
right?
H
Um,
told you so, but
but what I've learned and learning to do is because he'll look at me and go, Daddy, empathy first.
that's so sweet.
Right? Empathy first. And I'm like, like, yeah, you're right? You can't say
Jeez.
anything. You're like,
Yeah.
you're right. So just being in that space and that helps me a lot to understand because I am coming from that energy of getting things done and being focused and being efficient and being polished. Um, and that's not where everyone is.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and that's where I feel these three high energy types can rub folks the wrong way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the conversation prompts sometimes we'll use in group breakouts is what makes a good meeting, and there'll be some version of like, oh, I love collaborating and getting everybody's ideas and bouncing ideas off of each other. Three, sevens, even eights sometimes will say that. And then a 9 will come in and say something along some version of like, it just feels like I'm getting interrupted. But for some of these other types, it's like, oh, I thought we were like vibing. I thought we were like brainstorming over here and like, oh, yeah, but we could do this or we could do this. And a nine will say, no, it feels like you're interrupting me, especially because fives, nines, just process a little slower. And so if there's just a beat in there, it's like some of these types tend to bounce right into that beat, but it's like, oh no, they need that beat because they're about to say something. It's just they're not going to speak or necessarily think as fast. And thinking fast isn't necessarily a good thing, or they might be thinking fast, just processing, not as quick. Like I even catch myself doing like my thoughts can't don't always catch up with my speaking. And so it's like I'm thinking and I can't speak it. So and there are other types where it's like, well, gosh, they're very thoughtful when they speak, and when they speak. And so I think that can be a frustration on the other end at times. But then I will hear from three, sevens, eights, and they'll sometimes say, why do we have this person like a type nine potentially in this meeting if they're not going to say anything? And
Mm.
so the growth is, I mean, we'll do a separate episode for
Oh yeah.
a nice, but
I
the
mean,
growth
but
is
that's
to
that whole
speak.
thing, right? That's that whole thing of is understanding, you know, the different styles and the, ways that folks are navigating those different
Hmm.
strategies and understanding that for some folks, they don't need that rapid, or they're not going to be in that rapid mindset. Um, which actually I think is a really good segue, which then goes to the next question, and I'll answer this one first, which is um the biggest burnout signal. Um, and so for me, it's interesting because for a while I didn't really feel like, again, going to that three of I don't burn out. Like I don't burn out. I
Yeah,
just
not me.
I'm the energizing bunny. I can, right?
Hmm.
I'll make it happen. However, I'm realizing burnout, that signal for me is um when I'm working on something and I'm getting irritated. Uh
Okay.
when I'm getting irritated, like, I'm showing up and I want to do it, but I want to get it. Like when I'm to a point where I'm like, you know what, let's just get this done.
Hmm.
Um, that's when I realize like, ooh, I think I'm getting burnt out with this.
Hmm.
It's not, yeah, I don't feel like I'm showing up as my best self. And again, thinking about that piece, I'm edgier. I'm um a bit more curt
Hmm.
uh with how I'm answering things and meetings. That's what I know. That's what I know. Like, ooh, yeah.
I think other threes who are listening are going to be able to really resonate with that because that's not the first time I've heard some version of that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, just you get a little irritable. Don't we
Yep.
all? Let's see.
Oh,
I
you.
think gosh, I can think how I can burn myself out is this feeling of like being overwhelmed with choices and options and having so many ideas, and then I feel like I do have to do them all, and there's not enough time to do them all, and I'm gonna miss out on my one life, and I'm not going to be able to go to every country, and I'm not going to be able to have these experiences, and then I stress myself out so much because I'm not living life to the fullest.
Mm. So
um, and so
so
that's
FOMO is
something.
your signal? I'm like, is
FOMO, yes, FOMO.
that
And then I get grumpy too. I get grumpy, I get irritable, I get frustrated. Um, it's like, no, we can't have fun right now. There's too many fun things to do. We have
mm,
to go. We have to go do the fun things. We can't have fun doing them. So I noticed that. And I think that's a common feeling, maybe from some other sevens. They might be able to relate. What do you hear? Have you heard anything specific from your eight clients? Um, how they experience burnout?
Um, I would say for a couple of ones that I know, what tends to resonate with them is this space of um they will actually become not only just edgy, but almost more vulnerable, like almost to tears. Like they would almost find
Mm.
themselves coming to tears.
They've been holding it
Uh,
together for so long that it's like you got a breaking point. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Which is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's the space, but that's what I've seen and heard from that. What about you?
Yeah, I know. I was trying to think. I I think it's some version of that where it's like maybe they're still moving, they're still doing, but it's not productive um any longer. Like that just do it energy. It's like you're kind of going through the motions, but you're not maybe doing it's not moving you forward. Um can sometimes be something. I'm trying to think of what others have said. I think what you said, where it's like almost the opposite, and that's what's interesting. It's like almost the opposite of what you read about the stereotypical seven or the stereotypical three. It's like that the opposite of that is kind of how they express that burnout. Um, so that is interesting. Um, what was there a question about feeling grounded that you were going to ask? Am I jumping ahead?
I was, but you go for it.
Okay, yeah.
How do you feel,
What
man?
so and this one I'm really curious about because um for threes and eights and sevens too, there is some sort of growth guidance recommendation around slowing down, enjoy your life. But to your point, what you've kind of said in different ways, it's like, well, why would I want to do that? Why would I want to slow down? And for a seven, it's like, why would I not want to experience everything that there is to experience in the world? And eight, why wouldn't I want to get things done? So what's your take on, I don't know, is it slowing down, grounding yourself, specifically for the type three?
Um, I think I feel grounded, or what grounds me the fastest is when I'm able to, well, and again, maybe this is, you tell me if I'm being delusional.
Okay.
You tell me if I'm being
I'll
delusional.
channel my eight directness and let you know.
Exactly. But I feel I'm grounded most and fastest when I am working in those projects that really like feed my soul, feed my purpose. Um, I feel that's when I feel grounded the fastest. Um, and when I'm able to truly embrace empathy.
Mm, hmm.
So it's that, and I know that's a weird combination I just put together, but like I think about like when I'm able to be in that space and understand and bring all those different spaces together. So bring it to be in a space doing, but also having the emotional tie to that. Um, I feel again, like even just talking about it, I feel this lightness.
Hmm.
Um, that then I'm like, yep. And then of course that and also that grounding and energizes me to be able to move forward.
I
So yeah,
think I
that's what I
I I think threes can be so incredibly empathetic when they get to that this point because they can empathize with how much pressure, they
mm,
put on themselves. And so, they're able to say, I know, this like self battle that you're going up against, or I know what it's like to fail when you work so hard. And so I mean threes can't, they're not known for it in the stereotypical version of a three, but I think that they can be incredibly empathetic, and because they've lived that. And so when they see somebody else struggling, it's like, oh man, I've been there and I know that sucks, or that's hard to get through. That's hard not to let it, you know, make it mean something about who you are as a person.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, yeah, no, it's as you say that, right? I think it's really that going from doing to being.
mhm.
Um, which, yeah, just being honest, I always going to come back to the doing. But if I'm actually being in the moment and celebrating what it is that I'm doing and being able to be authentic in that space, I think that's the yeah, that
Yeah.
helps a lot. What
Yeah.
about you? What about the seven?
You know, I think this is one of those other things where it's like, oh yeah, you know, be more thoughtful, slow down, you know, ground yourself and meditation, or, you know, and I think, and I'm kind of in the middle of this, so we'll come back, you know, see how true this is later. But I think where I'm at is I need to feel like I have used up my energy for the day, for me to sleep well. And I have really been struggling with that. Because a lot of the work that I do is on a laptop. And I've just most recently been craving like more like physical labor, which, or not labor, but just to do something, unpack boxes, or, you know, I don't know. And so where I'm at with it to feel grounded is not to say, well, slow down, sit still, you know, be mindful, meditate, which I think there is some things I could take on from meditation. I'm sure that there is some benefits, but I think it's like, okay, well, maybe maybe my version of this, maybe other sevens can resonate with this, is, you know what? Quit, you know, pontificating over this new idea for work. Just let it sit for a minute. Like, don't try and like create a business plan, write a book in one day. Just let it sit there, and then go be active in some other way. Go run, go rearrange the garage, go clean out the base, you know, do something. And so that's where I'm trying, that's my version of being thoughtful, is like, okay, let's not overthink this thing on paper, this thing on my computer screen, or and just step away and do something different. Ideally, like with my hands, or, you know, my body, my energy,
Yeah,
doing
no, it's
something.
it's funny. I was just thinking, um, taking that energy, that restless energy, and maybe you said run, but I was even thinking about just go on a nature walk,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Just go on a nature walk and just, you know, release that energy in a
Mm-hmm.
in a different way.
Yeah.
Um,
I
yeah,
walk
so
every morning, and that's one of the reasons why, like, I wish I could just be like, all right, let's get to work. But it's like, no, I need to like, like shake it out or something before I
yeah,
can sit
yeah,
down.
walk it out.
Yeah.
That could be your theme song. Walk it out.
Walk about it. Yeah. Yeah. Oh. So,
Um,
and
for,
that's
for eight,
probably, yeah, there's probably some version of that for an 8 too, because I think it's really hard. It's kind of like, well, just relax. It's like, oh, right, why didn't I think of that? I'll just relax. But it's like, well, what can you do? Um, like, I know 1-8 was talking about, kind of similar to what I just said, but they'll go hiking. And it's like, I'm still thinking about work, or I'm still thinking about this issue, and I'm putting together how I'm going to do it, but I'm kind of letting it breathe, but I'm still doing something. It's really hard for me to just put my feet up and binge watch a Netflix series. Like, I need to be moving and doing things, is what I hear a lot from eights. I need to be doing things, but it doesn't always have to be for work, or it doesn't have to produce, you know, a result necessarily. It could just be like what you're saying, like for fun, a hobby, walking,
yeah. Well,
hiking.
it's funny you say that because for me, it's if I was thinking about it, what I would share with eights, and that also actually find this also helps me. So maybe that's my eight energy in that space, which is when I go to gym, um,
Jim?
right? I go to gym and I do a weight workout, but I also make sure that I do some like stretching, breath work
Ah,
afterwards, right? That tends to be a good way. Like I definitely can tell the mood difference that I'm in, and that's it's one of the things actually we talk about a lot at Trust Leadership Collective with that human 360 mindset, which is, taking those types of things in and understanding that, um, and making the time for it, which I would tell you as a three is the hard part, is to be like, well, there's other things I want to do, but how to try to bring that in as a part of that doing is doing for self and taking care of
mm-hmm.
self. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so that's what I would probably share with, those eights out there is, some type of, and again, it doesn't have to be crazy weightlifting, but just something that's still getting you out there and taking care of yourself. Um, I think it's important.
Yeah, I agree. I used to try and cut these out. I don't know if I people can hear it, but we got the mailman and now the dog is on guard duty, but we also had babies cry and we just, we're family friendly here,
It's life.
so
It's
yeah, it's
life.
life. It's life. Yeah, that is interesting and I know we had kind of talked about how to slow down without losing momentum and so I think sometimes that narrative for all three of these types needs to be shifted a little bit or has an opportunity to be shifted where it's like slowing down doesn't necessarily mean you don't get to your goal faster or as fast. It's like because sometimes you might actually get there faster because you're well rested, you're taking care of yourself. Yeah, to all those points. So that is probably a opportunity for growth for all of them. Should we just really quickly as we kind of start to wrap up leave listeners with some maybe tangible ideas to explore if they resonate with one of these three or if they are leading or working next to one of these three, maybe
Yep.
looking at the growth opportunities through the lens of the arrows.
Sure. Go for it.
Okay. So threes connected to the six and the nine and there's opportunity I love how some people will call them resource points and I really like that term because it's like we can dip into that. I think you use that too, that phrase. And I love that. And of course we can dip into all nine and pull something valuable. It just depends on what you want to work on the most. And typically it's a great starting point for a three who struggles with slowing down to channel some of that nine, going with the flow, allowing things to happen. And then the six being a little bit more kind of team centered, bringing others along their success path. What would you add to that? Anything else you would add to that for threes to keep in
Yeah,
mind?
I would say, also in that sixes with the slowing down and is that piece of coming from the sixth space, which is I guess you kind of said it with the teams and collaborating, but also being prepared, right? And thinking about what's needed
Mm,
in that space to be successful. What is that going to look like? Um, so I think tapping into that, I think is also important. Um, and from the non-space, sometimes borrowing from that, hey, I don't need to have all the answers right now.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I don't need to have all the answers right now. And I would probably say when I say that, meaning I can go with the flow.
Yeah, yeah.
I can go with the flow.
I want to ask you something real quick before we move on. So they'll sometimes call the type six the neglected strategy or the type that a three will resist the most. And it's because sixes are striving to feel safe and secure. That's like, let's go with the status quo. Let's go with the proven method. It's okay to blend in. Whereas we have the threes striving to to feel outstanding. That's almost in
Thank you.
direct conflict. Yeah. What's your personal kind of relationship with that energy? Any just specific story, any growth opportunities within that specific piece of it?
I don't know. I will say I feel I guess the term I'm going to use is somewhat blessed in that space of that. Um, I find myself actually tapping into that a lot more.
Mm.
And maybe some of that is age and wisdom.
Yeah.
Maybe some of that's age and wisdom, but I find myself sharing more about my limits. Um, and you know, relying on others and those kinds of things. So that's what I will say probably with that is find that serenity
Mm-hmm.
in able to do that. Almost actually, I guess I think about it, humility to say, you know what? What's that is in that movie is like, I got it, I got it, I got it. I don't got it. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't,
and
sometimes you
just
don't.
and finding that space to say, I don't got it. And what do I need to do to get it? Because I'm going to get this done. And if I can take that time, to your point, if I can take that time to figure that out and have that mindfulness and intentionality, um, it actually does get me there quicker because I'm not making mistakes that I didn't have to go back and fix.
Yeah.
And I share
Yeah.
that with a lot of when I'm coaching and when I'm working with organizations, a lot of times they're like, well, we want to be efficient. And I'm like, yeah, but are you really being efficient if you're multiple times you're going back and you're fixing things that if you would have just taken the time to figure it out first, it actually would have cost you less.
Feels like you're
And you
calling
would
me
probably
out
got
with reading instructions for putting things together. I'm like, we don't need these. This extra piece of paper. We'll figure it's intuitive. I can figure it out. I'm like, dang it, it's backwards. This piece is backwards. And now does it
exactly.
screw in?
Yeah.
So yeah,
No,
that's a
right.
great point.
Oh, it is.
And to that, I just wanted to say one more thing because I know that um there there is just I mean the stereotype what a lot of times what you'll see about a three is that they are high strung or they are all of these things that we've talked about today, but just to what you said, because of age, life events, just wisdom over the years, they can also be really chill. I just had a three say, I don't know if I'm a three anymore because, like, now all I want to do is start a chicken farm and, like, be really excellent at collecting eggs and having these chickens and create, like, this little barn for them. And it's like I still care about my career. It's just there's other things I want to have. And I think that it's like, oh wow, okay, well this is a very specific picture of growth for someone like a type 3 who tends to be so focused and honed in on work success that it's like, oh, you can channel some of that energy to something like raising chickens. And that can be really fun and life-giving
All
as
right.
well. Human being. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the thing came to mind just now as you say that is I don't have to perform to be valued.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, so threes, if you can just embrace that, right? The understanding that we don't have to perform to be valued. We can just stand with our people. We can just be on the sidelines and watch it for a while. And not feel like we have to be in the game all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a good one. Um,
What
so
about
with
seven?
sevens, so their resource points are the one and the five,
Yes.
and the five tends to be the one that they resist the most or neglect the most with that slowing down, being more thoughtful before you take action, um, being okay in solitude and silence. And that can be incredibly uncomfortable. Sometimes for a seven. But like we've been talking about today, there can also be a lot of growth in that to, be less of that shiny object, scattered, new idea every hour. stereotype of a seven. So I definitely think about that often. Um, I think about it a lot when I'm speaking, not as much today during this episode, but um, about like just slowing the tone down, slowing the pace down, even something as minute as that. Um, Saying things like, I'm not sure yet. Let me get back to you. Because I don't know if this is a three thing too, but I want to be like, oh, I want to have an answer that is that is good news. Sure, I can do it. And it's like, oh shoot, I can't, or I don't have time, or I don't know how to do that. So just being like, is this something I really even want to do? Before, like, do
Mm,
I even want to have dinner with you? And actually, no, I've thought about it and no, I don't. So, before I say yes and then have to cancel, trying to say, let me think about it. I'll get back to you. And then for the one, kind of channeling some of that discipline, structure, commitment, processes to bring these new ideas to life. I think about that a lot as well. And it's interesting because when I'm doing my kind of stressed out, burned out vibes, I mean, I get the opposite of chill. I am like a really annoying type one where I'm like, it's supposed to be this way. We were supposed to have fun this way. This vacation was supposed to be this. So I can also kind of overuse some of those as well. But yeah, I think sevens, there's a lot of opportunity, not to, again, necessarily strive to be perfect, but how can you bring in the strengths of the seven and the five to help make your life more exciting because you're accomplishing things, because maybe you're actually having more meaningful relationships, because you're slowing down, or a relationship with yourself, or um, you know. So those are the two that sound like a snooze fest initially. It's like, oh dang, that's exactly, yeah, that's what I need. I need to hear that.
I'll share this with you, Jared. Just keep this in mind, especially when I think about um, that one, which is um, freedom thrives. Freedom thrives with structure,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
right?
I think
Um,
about that. Yeah, there's some kind of quote, and I'm always thinking about that.
yeah, right. Freedom thrives with structure, and so if you can, because if you had that, then you had the freedom to be like, okay, I know how to build this, and I don't have to try.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's okay to read it's okay to read the instructions.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
because what happens is when you don't have that, you're still not getting things done because then it becomes overwhelmed. You're overwhelmed with the options and possibilities.
yep. And then you end up doing something else, and then it's just sitting there.
Yeah, and then it's just sitting there. So, yeah, I think that's great advice. I'm probably not the only seven that needs that, but I definitely need that reminder. What about for our eights? So our eights are connected to the type two, striving to feel connected, and the type five also, which is striving to feel detached. And sometimes the eights will, once they've kind of tapped out their type eight burnout symptoms, they say, kind of take on some of the stress behaviors of a type 5 and kind of withdraw and retreat. But there's also a lot of benefits that they can use for the good, and in that, like, recovery, slowing down a little bit, similar to the 7. I'll let you kind of jump in so I don't
Yeah, no,
monopolize this, but
so when you said step back, I was thinking about that stepping back in a positive way can help them to re-energize and and like the seven, think about a strategy versus just powering ahead because you know you can,
mm-hmm.
but actually having a strategy, and that strategy to me can be a powerful action, or just as powerful as action, right? To be like, okay, what is this going to look like? And then, so yeah, so that's what I would say probably with the five. And then if I think about that too, um, as eights again, like the rest, like the sevens and threes who don't necessarily like to be vulnerable, but tapping into that two space and actually showing some care, which I think eights do. It's just in a totally different energy.
Yeah.
Um, but really embracing and sometimes that strength is even magnified when it's coupled with care. When I know that you're doing this because you care and not because you're trying to control me, um,
Yes.
I think it's so powerful. Um,
So,
so
real quick story. There
yeah.
was another group that we did a closing activity where everybody shared a strength that they saw in a teammate, and we were broken out by teams. And so the team leader was a type 8, and we didn't really talk about that. But I have seen whenever we do team mapping or team plotting, it's interesting how much of the leadership team is a 3-8, and then how often it's the sixes, the nines, the twos are the ones being led. Not to say that they can't be leaders. It's just in my experience, corporate America, I see that dynamic a lot. So there's a lot of just relationship friction potential just right, between leadership and the rest of the team right there. But the team had said, we love, yeah, sometimes he can be intimidating, but I know that he cares so much. And when we have a problem, I feel so comfortable going into his office, telling him like what's going on. And I know that he's going to have my back, that he's going to go to bat for me. And that feels so good to have that like directness and assertiveness, like being supported by that rather than like having that come at me, which at times maybe it's warranted. But I thought, oh my gosh, what a great compliment. Because eights really do take care of their people. It takes a while to get in to be one of their people, but when you're in there, they have so much empathy and care and want to be connected to their people. So a lot of things in a type 2 that you might think of as a type 2, eights can also have. It's going to take a little bit longer to see some of that,
Oh yeah.
or if ever, depends on if you get in or not.
Well, there is that. And but yeah, I've worked for actually a couple of eights, but this one eight really stands in mind, and what you're just talking about really resonates, which is um how much she would do to take care of her people.
Mm-hmm.
But because she didn't want to look weak, again, just the energy and intensity that she would do it with, a lot of times people didn't really, that care didn't resonate,
Mm-hmm.
right? The care didn't resonate all the time because of just it wasn't the what, it was the how. Um, what do you think? How you want to wrap this up? What words of wisdom do you want to leave with?
Uh, you know, I think that sometimes with these types, we can harp on the way that they overuse their strengths. Some of with this intensity can be really overwhelming, and of course, we all have our baggage. There's things that we all need to work on, but I think I want to leave it on no surprise, a positive note, um, and that we need this energy on a team, just like we need the thoughtfulness of a 5 or the questions of a 6 or that anxiety reducing calm energy that the 9 will sometimes bring. We need it all in different situations. And there is a lot of forward movement, making things happen, experiencing life, allowing people to come along and enjoy the things that they're doing. And it can be really inspiring to be around a 3, a 7, or an 8. You can, be open to possibilities instead of what might go wrong, what might go right. I might actually be successful. I can do this. And so, just, for our 3, 7, and 8s who sometimes feel beat up, all three of them have said, especially 8s will say, I feels like you're picking on me. It feels like these are the harshest overused strengths out of all of them. So, that's debatable, but there is so much good and so much that is needed from 3, 7s, and 8s on a team in the work that we do with their families, with their friends. And so, just also remember all the strengths that you bring and channel those, in a grounded way, I guess.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree. And as you say, in that grounded way, um, it makes me think about, so I used to run track and I ran long distance. and um cross country, long distance. And one of the things I remember is you don't have to sprint the whole race to win it, right? Like if I sprinted the whole time,
You're
I would
not
be
going to win it.
I'm
Yeah.
not gonna win it, right? And
Yep.
so, and I think about that. I think about, running those races. That's how I was able to, place or win is to, I could not sprint the whole way.
Yeah.
Um,
You're moving forward. You're just maybe
yeah, you're
not
still moving
turbo
forward.
speed. Yeah. You don't got the NOS boost on at all times. You-
Yeah. So that's
Yeah, that's great advice. All right. Well, listeners, if you happen to identify with the 378 and have any additional strengths or way that you see this show up in your team dynamics, let us know. Or if you happen to work with the 378 and want to shout out the positive impact they make on your team, let us know. We can do that anonymously, or we can do it, actually shout them out. Let us know. enneagrammba.com/contact. And then I do just want to put a plug in as teams are kind of closing out the year. It's almost September. People are planning their end of year offsite retreats. They're also starting to plan their new year kind of goal setting for 2026 experiences. Dee and I both do facilitating, anywhere from half day, full day. And so we can talk about specific workshops, programming to help your team kind of close out the year or to set the stage for a wonderful, grounded yet successful 2026. So you can check out those workshop options over at EnneagramMBA.com. Thanks for doing this, Dee. This was fun. And
yeah. Thank you.
listeners, thanks for being here.
Take care.